So today I wanted to take a moment to just start showing you guys how to navigate around QGIS. So today we're not going to be doing anything in terms of analysis. I'm not going to be showing you anything in terms of symbology. I'm just going to be showing you guys what the QGIS layout looks like, how you can navigate it, and what some of the different features are for this program. So with QGIS, it looks very different than if you're used to working with ArcGIS, ArcMap, ArcPro, whatever that is. So there's different features that are attached to it. There's different ways that you can navigate around. It does look slightly more similar to Pro than it does to ArcMap or ArcDesktop, if you're more familiar with that one. And so with this program, so Q, for those of you who don't know, and I have another video that talks a little bit more about Q as a program, but Q is an open source or free GIS software. And so if you're trying to navigate around, I'm guessing you probably have already downloaded it and you kind of know a bit about what you're doing in terms of a GIS style things. So in terms of a panel though, we have all of our different tools up at the top here. So we have our project, we have edit, view, layers, settings, plugin, our vector and our raster tools, our database management, if we have anything on the web that we need. I also have this SCP, this is a plugin, but you also have these processing tools from that. You have your toolbox, and then you also have your help. Down here you have, similar to ArcGIS or to the ESRI suite, you have your different navigation tools. So you have how to pan around, if you want to zoom in, you have that. If you want to zoom out, you have that. If you want it to go to full, right? If you want to identify something. So some of these are similar to what you'll find in QGIS, and then there's selection tools and things like that. Down in this section here, so this second bar, are going to be things for adding different types of data, particularly on this one. So these ones are going to be if you want to create different data, so if you wanted to create a new shapefile layer, if you wanted to do some digitization, or over here is if you wanted to add some data. Now I have another video that I'm going to be doing specifically on adding different types of data. There's a couple of different ways you can do it, so I'm not going to be showing you that here, but again, these are all of your general tools. So my recommendation is play around with some of the tools and see what pops out with it. And then this one here is another plugin that I have. So sometimes you'll find different plugins will add different toolbars to the top of your deck. This one is for an image classification tool, and so this is a semi-automatic classification. And so I have different things there that I can work with, but in this particular case, you may not see this one because this one is just from that plugin. So you may or may not have that one. And again, I will talk about plugins in a later video. So those are the things at the top anyways. Now, if we head over into this main view is going to be where your maps are, right? So if you have different maps, then they'll stack on here. Now, one of the things to note about QGIS is that it does not hide things well compared to ESRI. So ESRI's interface hides a lot of different things. So if you have different projections, it'll sort those out. If you have errors in your vector data, it'll sort those out. So it has a lot of error management, which QGIS does not have. Now again, this is partially because Q is an open source program, and so it has different tools coming from different places. So sometimes it's not as easy in terms of the errors that it throws because it's not hiding those errors in the same way that ESRI will. So, but this is going to be all of your different map area. And so you can also navigate and do things like zoom in your map area as well if you have a click mouse with a scroll button on it, or one of the scroll things. That's how I am zooming in and out here. So that's kind of what you got here anyways. So This is just where your map's going to go. If you want to know what your coordinate system is, what your coordinate system is, but if you want to know where your cursor is. So this is from a UTM style one. And so this is all in meters that you can figure out in your data, but it'll show you what your coordinates are at the very least. If you want to change what your scale is, then you can also do that here. And then you can also change your magnification as well. And if you want to rotate it, then you can go from here. It does show you what your projection is. Now you'll notice that mine says unknown CRS. Now mine says unknown CRS because I am not using a coordinate system that is commonly used. So this one is a UTM style one that is specific for Costa Rica. So if you scroll over it, you'll see that it says essentially projection CRTM05. So this is going to be what the actual projection is. QGIS doesn't really understand it, so it just flips it to an unknown. It's not a problem. It still has, like, it can still sort out where it is on the globe, but it is a little bit problematic depending on some of the different tools that you have, and so that in analysis can be a little bit problematic to deal with. But for now, this one is still fine. Now, on the sides, you'll see different panes. So the default ones that you'll come up with are your browser. And so this one is one of the ways that you can add data. So you can go, and if you have different WMS servers that you're hooked up to, if you have an ArcMap server that you're hooked up to, or if you just have generalized data that you're using, this navigates similar to any sort of folder documentation that you have, right? And so in this case, I am kicking around in my stuff, and so I could go over, and if I wanted to add, right, I've got different TIFFs. It'll show you all the different files that are available, but in this case, I'm just going to add in another data set, so I can drag and drop it. Again, I'll go over that later, but this is where you can find a lot of your data, and it does work same as any sort of file management system. And it'll show different databases as well if you want to get into databases. So down here, you're going to have your layers. It is going to do it in the order that it's rendering in. So unlike how ESRI, you have different views that you have with it. This one predominantly stays in this setup, and so then you can kind of take a look at it and play around with it. It'll tell you what type of data it is, so these ones are both rasters, and then it'll tell you, what your classification scheme is, if there is any. So in this case, I've got a pseudoband color, and then I've just got a regular stretched one here as well for the rasters. So those are going to be the layers that you have. Now you can add groups to it, you can change themes, you can filter your content, you can remove layers, you can expand things, you can collapse things, but it really is just this one view that they have for the layers. And then the last thing that you'll see is this processing toolbar over here. Now this processing toolbar will be divided up into the different systems that it'll work with. So all of these ones that are from Q are all of the built-in Q tools that you have. So similar to the ARC toolbox, if you're familiar with ESRI, but this is where you can do different things. So in the raster tools, you can do some conversion. In the analysis, vector analysis, you've got, you can do k-mean clusters, you can do a distance matrix, you can do basic statistics. So unlike ESRI, it's not put together in the same way. It is more put together in terms of the type of data that you're dealing with, as opposed to the theme of analysis that you're dealing with. So you do see some ones that are consistent, so like interpolation has its own as well. So these ones are the ones that are built into Q, but assuming that you downloaded the whole Q suite, you also see that there's a couple of other ones that kick around. So you've got Saga, you've got LAS Tools, GRASS, and GDAL. And so these ones are different GIS programs that can do different analysis. Now there is redundancy because they still do stuff. So like in raster analysis here, same sort of thing. You've got some overlaid ones that you would also find in raster analysis over here. They might be labeled differently, but you can still find them. Same thing in GRASS. GRASS is again divvied up by its in terms of data type. And then same thing in Saga. Saga has a bunch of different tools that you can use as well. So there is going to be some redundancy in both, but this can be useful. So something like a raster calculator, you can find built into Q, you can find it in GDAL, you can find it in GRASS, you can find it in Saga. But Saga is the only one that has a conditional field attached to it. So instead of trying to go through the if-else conditions in the raster calculator in QGIS, it won't work there. So instead you can use Saga. So the redundancy does have a point because in some of these cases because they've been built differently, and so sometimes the functionality looks different. So assuming that you have those different built-in ones, all of those are free in the QGIS suite anyways. So you should have all of these different things. Now, if let's say you want to see something else, so let's say it threw an error and it said to go into the results, you would be able to get at it through view, and then down here at the bottom of view it says panels. So you'll see that I have the processing toolbox, the layers, the layer order, and the browser that are all checked off. So those are all of the side panels. But let's say I needed to deal with results, let's say. So I could go in and check out the log messages, and so that'll say, what am I doing? What are the different plugins doing? Is there any are there any Python warnings? What's going on with the CRS? So in this one, I can't transform the bounding box to the target CIS. This is because my CRS is unknown, and then if you need any help with Q, then you can get that there. You can also get something, you can also see what kind of toolbars you have. So let's say you wanted to have another toolbar kicking around. So let's say you wanted the raster toolbar, it would just add it up here into your new toolbars. And so you can turn those on and off depending on what you need and what you like. So all of those can be adjusted and depending on what you are interested in. And so that, again, is all in this view section, and you have different things that you can take a look at depending on what you want to see, okay? And so if you don't like any of these, if you want to get rid of them, you just hit the X bar. You can make them as big or as small as you want. You can drag them to do that. It'll automatically filter and adjust what your zoom size is, assuming that, or what your view is, so that you can do that. Yeah, and that's kind of just the basics of it. Much like in any other program, if you right click, more options pop up. So anytime I right click on any of my data sets, I have different things that can pop up. So if I want to export it, I can do that. If I want to change the CRS on it or set the CRS or the coordinate system, because in this case it's an unknown one, right? So I could set that CRS to something that is that it does understand, assuming that it's the same projection. I can take a look at the different styles, so I can copy the style that I have for the grayscale and then paste it in another one, and then I can take a look at the properties, and the properties will show up as a secondary box, and then you see that there are different things that you can have here. I'll go through data properties in another video, but I just wanted to pull those up so that you could see what is happening there. So those are some of the different things that you can find in your QGIS layout. And then yeah, so your tools are going to be over here, your tools are also going to be up here, and your processing is going to be up there, and then if you want to change things around, you can find that up in your headers. So yeah, so that's kind of what I have for you guys today. Hopefully that helped, and hopefully you are able to navigate what's happening in your QGIS frame a little bit better now. So I hope you guys have a good day, and thank you so much.